The Shmup, aka overhead shoot 'em ups, aka sideways shoot 'em ups. Call them whatever you want, I call them awesome. Just mowing down an entire army either by yourself or with a friend, it's one of the purest video game experiences you can get. Aside from, you know, Tetris. How lucky for you, because if you own a PC, then you can play all of the shmups that you're about to see in this video, because they're all on Steam. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get started. It's a Skeleton's Spooky Steam Shoot 'em Ups Smorgasbord. Happy Halloween.
Crimzon Clover.
Starting off, we've got a platinum standard shmup that all fans of the genre should try. Crimzon Clover. Developed by Yotsubane and released on Steam in 2014. It's a game very similar in style to the Dodonpachi series, with a massive line of fire that doesn't require precise aim, and a very powerful homing attack that charges while focusing your shots. You might be watching this madness and thinking, how is anybody supposed to not get hit with all this going on? Thankfully, enemy bullets are brightly colored and contrast well against the backgrounds. The game makes sure that if it's dangerous, you can see it. And a lot of the enemies are on the ground, which allows you to move over top of them unharmed, which is actually a pretty clever method of increasing the amount of enemies on screen without limiting your movement. It's chaos, but it's a controlled chaos. Wait, isn't that an oxymoron? Your two main gameplay modes are Original, which is a set difficulty that gives you access to the oh-so-satisfying Double Break mode, a powered-up state that makes enemies weep, and frankly me too, because it's such a beautiful thing to behold, and Boost mode, a positively brilliant game mode that gives you on-the-fly control over the difficulty. Here's how it works. Whenever you fill up this meter and enter break mode, a timer will start on the sidebar. Every 30 seconds that you stay in break mode, you get a point bonus and the difficulty goes up permanently. If things get too crazy, you can use a bomb to end break mode and stop the timer. However, the cost for bombs on the meter will go up each time you use one, forcing you to build up more and more charge between bombs. This is a great idea for a game mode in a shmup, and it's easily the one that I play the most. What I really love about Crimzon Clover is the detail. Everything from the player's ships, to the backgrounds, and the enemy designs and animations. Check out this boss here. I only just recently noticed that it's actually leaving tire marks on the ground as it moves. It's all so lovingly crafted and a joy to look at. Look at this. This is crack cocaine for the eyes.
This is crack.
I recommend this video by Super Bunny Hop if you want to see more about Crimzon Clover in detail. Because while I could keep going on about the majesty of this game, we've got a buttload more shmups to talk about. To end my thoughts, the game is amazing, it looks amazing, it's a joy to play, and the music is radical. I'll be giving every game I talk about here a difficulty rating, since a high level of challenge is pretty typical for this genre. I give Crimzon Clover a difficulty rating of... I love coming up with these bullshit rating systems. Next game!
Hypership Out of Control.
Let's move on to something a little more modest. Hypership Out of Control was released on Steam in 2015 by Fun Infused Games, and it is exactly what the title states. You're in a ship, your brakes are out, you can't stop. Oh no! Well, if you're gonna die anyway, you might as well die with the highest score in the galaxy. Collect as many coins as possible to rack up the points while avoiding or shooting down obstacles. It's pretty basic, but it's a lot of fun. With one problem that keeps me from playing it as often as I might like. It's not procedurally generated. It's not like Race the Sun where the layout is changed daily to keep things interesting. No, every time you play Hypership Out of Control, it's the same layout, and you will quickly notice. Now, let's keep it real here. This is a $2 game. Manage your expectations. At least it does have leaderboards, and some other options that can change up the experience a bit. Fun stars. What does that do? Oh god, my eyes! Nope! Oh, thank god for that. Also, this finish line was a dick move. What a beginner's trap. For the price, I think it's a very decent little shmup that's worth the purchase. The music is pretty good too. That's something you'll be hearing me say a lot about these games, I assure you. I give Hypership Out of Control a difficulty rating of
Ikaruga.
I always say, just because you love doing something, it doesn't mean you're good at it. That being said, I sure do love singing, socializing, and playing Ikaruga. This game requires just a few too many thought processes that I'm used to in a shmup, and unfortunately, I just can't seem to get the hang of it. Ikaruga uses a polarity system. With the press of a button, you can switch your ship's shield from blue to red. If you're blue, you absorb blue bullets and add them to a special meter. Same for red. You also deal more damage to enemies of the opposing color. It's a really creative system for a shmup, and I suck absolute balls at using it. A shame, really. It's such a solid and well-crafted game. If you think you've got the mental fortitude to handle it, then absolutely give it a try sometime. One last thing. When I saw that the game was developed by Treasure, I looked them up. Not only did they make the Sin and Punishment Wii game, which I've actually been playing a bit lately, they also made Sylphid: The Lost Planet for PS2. Hey, I really liked that game as a kid. I should try revisiting it sometime. Perhaps in a future sequel to this video? Ikaruga gets my personal difficulty rating of
Jetbuster.
It's a good game. I did not respond well to Jetbuster at first. I thought it was a cheapo game with very little effort put into it. And while it is a cheapo game, I think I got it for a couple bucks on sale, it actually wound up really impressing me with its sound design, selectable characters, and fast-paced gameplay. Jetbuster is fast. Really fast. It's one of the fastest shmups I've ever played. To make up for this breakneck pace, you don't weave through hundreds of tiny bullets, but instead a reduced number of very large ones. These are much easier to dodge. In fact, I feel safe playing this game fast and loose instead of throttling my speed for precise movement. The throttle button does give you a focus attack, but don't expect it to be much stronger. I find that it's actually much weaker. The focus attacks are mainly used to transform medals. Medals are currency for the shop, where you can buy new characters, other game modes, infinite continues, and I can only imagine what this is. I really like the 90s arcade-style voice clips. Feels like this game should open with a winners don't do drugs message. And what did she just call that bomb? Bomba? Like from Adventure Time?
Time to use the Bomba!
And I really like some of the music. Even though that high-pitched, tinny tone that's the basis for every track can get irritating after a while. Jetbuster was developed by Team Grybanzer Fox. So far they've only released low-budget but decently solid shmups on Steam. I'll definitely talk about their other games in a future video. For now, I give Jetbuster a difficulty rating of
ALLTYNEX.
Now let's talk about the ALLTYNEX trilogy, developed by Sitterskane. While only one of the 3 games on Steam is actually called ALLTYNEX, make no mistake, they all take place in the same universe. These games all have interesting shooting mechanics that bring a refreshing amount of choice to your attack options. Let's start with Kamui. Whoa, I think I just remembered why I called this show the Bone Zone. Kamui is one of those shmups where you have to worry about what's in the background as well as what's in front of you. That's why you're given a fast recharging lightning attack that homes in on enemies and can wipe out an entire wave of minor foes in the background with one button press. As for enemies on the same plane as you have a powerful laser that cuts through foes like butter and wipes out bullets in your path. But it does have a cooldown meter, so you can't hold it indefinitely. You also get a shield that can keep you alive for a few hits before losing a life. A much appreciated gesture, since this game can really put the pressure on you. It wasn't until I reached the final boss my first time that I realized the smarter way to play is to use the laser in short bursts to erase enemy bullets from your path. Kinda like using a screen clearing bomb, but more condensed. It became a lot more manageable once I learned this strategy. I really don't have any complaints at all about Kamui. It's satisfying shoot-'em-up action with a kickin' soundtrack and beautiful pixelated graphics that remind me a lot of Striker's 1945 for PS1. God, I love that game. The nostalgia I feel is strong with Kamui. I rate it a Next is RefleX. This one doesn't offer multiple attack options like the other two games. Instead, it uses one of my favorite mechanics in a shmup. One that's so satisfying that I'm surprised more developers haven't thought of it. In RefleX, you can pull a Star Trek and raise a barrier with the push of a button. This barrier renders you invulnerable to all attacks except missiles and contact with enemies. Not only that, but it also reflects attacks back at your foes, which is essentially your background attack option like in Kamui. The barrier has a generously large meter and recharges quite fast. If you want the meter to recharge faster, you have to do something unheard of in a shmup. You have to stop firing. Reflecting giant lasers is rad. I only have one problem with RefleX. I like to use a DualShock 4 when I use Steam, and I couldn't get the game to accept my controller. I had to use DS4 Windows, and I hate when I have to use DS4 Windows. Other than that, very satisfying game. It gets a difficulty rating of...
Oh damn.
Ow! Guess he didn't hit the shield button fast enough. Last in the ALLTYNEX trilogy is the namesake of the series, ALLTYNEX Second. This one ditches the pixel graphics of the first two games and goes full 3D, and it's my favorite in the series, mainly because of how many attack options you are given. You get your basic attack with a decent spread, you get a homing laser that I don't use very much, and you get one of the most satisfying laser beams ever in a shmup that will actually turn towards an enemy. I like the little red targeting reticule the game gives you to see where it's going to fire. It's a very powerful weapon for bosses, but be careful. If it doesn't finish the job, then you'll be left with a very weak basic attack while the meter recharges. Also, just in case you buy this game, you fire the laser by first pressing the melee button and then the fire button. I didn't even know it existed before accidentally using it on my first playthrough. And lastly, you get a close-range melee attack that deals massive damage and gives a ton of points. It even erases bullets. I always wind up using this attack option the most. It's an excellent balance of risk versus reward. Holy fuck, that's rad. I love this game. It takes a bit to get accustomed to all the cool stuff you can do, but once you do, it is one of the most satisfying shmup experiences on Steam. And despite all of your power, it's still a very challenging shmup. So I give it a difficulty rating of
Rush! Move your fat fucking ass!
And that's the ALLTYNEX series. All of them excellent games that I highly recommend. And now for something completely different.
You're so misunderstood. Deep Space Life!
Okay, I gotta admit, that's pretty funny. Oh no. What in the... Why is this in my collection? When did I buy this? Why did I buy this? I feel so dirty. See, I wrote a blog post about why I fucking hate video games, because this is what it does. It appeals to the male fantasy. It's like you try to play a wholesome video game and some girl tries to ruin it by getting naked.
Ooh, titties!
Okay, for real. It has some bugs, and it's not a very well-made shmup, but you could do worse for $3. And it's a great Steam gift to make your friends go,
What the fuck?
Difficulty rating of Nipples the Enchilada. Moving on.
Space Moth DX.
Space Moth DX was developed by 1cc Games, a direct reference to the final goal of most shmups, which is getting a 1 credit clear. Like say you went to the arcade and try to beat a game on 1 quarter. The game is solid enough. You play as a moth with a basic bullet attack and a focused laser. The main mechanic is to first weaken large enemies with your basic attack until they turn black, and then performing a soul drain with your laser for a point bonus. In fact, most of the special mechanics in this game revolve around point bonuses, like finishing off a boss when the timer is on the last few seconds for a massive bonus. It's great for people that like to compete on leaderboards, but I don't really care that much about points in my shmups. I just like to play them for the fun of it, and because of that, I personally find Space Moth DX kinda boring. The music is okay, but there isn't much complexity to the compositions. Boss fights are enjoyable, but I find the levels leading up to them to be way too slow, repetitive, and far too lengthy. I think it's a decent game, and other players will probably find more to enjoy than I do. It's just not for me. I prefer fast-paced action and catchy music in my shmups. Space Moth DX gets a difficulty rating of
What the fuck?
Shoot 1 up.
This game earns the Most Unique Playstyle in a Shmup I've Ever Played award. You don't play as a ship, you play as many in a cluster. You can expand or contract your ships to either squeeze through enemy fire or pile on the damage. Manage to stay expanded long enough and you'll start firing a very powerful laser. Yeah, I know, lasers again. Be careful though, taking a hit will interrupt the attack. You also have a useful shockwave that destroys everything in range and recharges while you aren't firing. I found myself resorting to this attack option more when things started getting especially bonkers, which in Shoot 1 Up is a pretty common occurrence. There are also branching paths in every level that let you change things up, one easy and one hard. I'm assuming that the hard path gives more pickups. I'm not sure since I always pick the hard path anyway. Yeah, I'm a hardcore skeleton. It's a pretty unique shmup with some interesting ideas, but it's not one that I like to play very often. I find the graphics unappealing and there isn't much in the way of animation to look at, though the boss designs are pretty cool. I'm also not a big fan of the music. Some stages even have repeated tracks, which I find pretty lazy. Gotta give it points for the vision that Mommy's Best Games had when developing it. They sure thought outside the bun with this one. I wonder what other games they've made. What's this? Pig Eat Ball? Wow. Holy shit. I give Shoot 1 Up a difficulty rating of
Oh yeah, you fucking like that, you motherfucker! Fucking goddamn leg! Oh fuck!
Raiden IV OverKill.
Okay, first I need to start by giving this game mad fucking props for one of the coolest multiplayer mechanics I've seen in a shmup. I managed to get a buddy over to join me for some 2-player action, and while I'm writing these scripts on my laptop, I like to have the recorded footage playing on the TV. In this case, I looked up and noticed that I was blocking my buddy's laser with my ship. So I started writing about how out of the ordinary and kinda dickish it was for a shmup to do that. Then I looked up again and noticed there was something more going on. My ship wasn't just blocking his laser, it was absorbing it and powering up my shots. Man, you should have seen the nerdgasm I had at that realization. That's an awesome little mechanic to add, and I didn't even know it was happening until days after the fact. Well done, Moscow. You really impressed me. Now on to the actual review. Raiden IV OverKill is balls to the wall, nuts to the bus, testicle to the electrical, difficult. Enemy bullets are so tiny and move so fast that often I die without even knowing what hit me. And sometimes I just drop dead from an enemy that flew in like a bat out of hell ready to fuck up my day. And I'm playing on easy mode. Is this some kind of sick joke? Whatever you do, don't take the plasma laser power up. It curves all over the place and makes it harder to see incoming bullets. The proton option is a little safer, I find. You know what? I don't think this game uses a center hitbox like many other shmups. Going back to Crimzon Clover, the only part of your ship that you have to worry about getting hit is the little dot in the center. As long as that doesn't get hit, you're good. And any bullets that come near usually count as a graze, which gives you points. Raiden IV says fuck that and fuck you hitboxes. Your entire ship is a danger zone. Man up or go play something else. Well, despite the abusive relationship I have with this game, I still like it a lot. The graphics are pleasing, and I really dig the music, especially the first level theme. But what's with the game over theme sounding like an ending to an 80s family sitcom? And I really don't understand why they spent time and money on this boring as shit opening cinematic. Man, either make an inspired opening or just cut straight to the title screen. I recommend buying Raiden IV OverKill if you want a shmup to tackle with a friend. The nut-busting challenge just might bring you both closer together. Difficulty rating of
Green, what's your problem, Green? What is your problem? Missile alone ramp, missile alone ramp.
Huyo Blaster.
boy, this game. First of all, I'm fortunate to even be covering this one. I was bored one day and started looking through Steam for shmups that were on sale. Lo and behold, I came across Kuyo Blaster. And if this video gets some other people to buy it, then I'll consider myself fulfilled. Because this game is a trip, man. It's a real trip. First, it's a shmup that I actually enjoy the story for. Or at least what parts of it that I can understand. I have a feeling that English isn't the first language of Team Robot Black Hat. Or maybe they just used poor spelling and grammar as a reference to poor translations from back in the day. Either way, it's hilarious. A group of courageous miniature extraterrestrial warriors goes to follow a big meteor that brings a plague. The target of the group of brave warriors is to finish the invasion of alien insects. So, after choosing one of 3 teams depending on what kind of playstyle you want, you choose from a roster of varied characters to play as. Characters like Mr. Cheeks the Guinea Pig, Iron Cat, Tom Tomb, X3-chan, what the hell, that's just Astro Boy, and my personal favorite, a metal as fuck, bloody, dismembered dog head that propels itself forward with its own blood trail. Man, Parodius never did anything like that. This large cast of characters and an impressive selection of special attacks that get unlocked as you play gives Kuyo Blaster a lot of replay value. Even after I had gotten plenty of footage, I kept playing because it's just so much fun. Some of the animation on display here is actually really impressive. Look at the little dude in this plane. Look at how he slowly turns around, frowns, and pulls out a gun to start shooting at you. I love that little detail. And look at this thing. I still have no idea what this thing is, but it shows up every time I finish this boss fight. The action will not stop, my friend. Prepare! It's not just the animation that's impressive. The backgrounds are filled to the brim with detail. They're probably the most detailed and interesting backgrounds I've ever seen in a shmup. Just look at this photograph. Every time it nearly makes me laugh. And there's X3-chan's drinking cup. And check out this house that's all kinds of jacked up in the background here. Or this mountain scene with civilization below it. It's actually quite a nice piece of pixel art. And this area where you fight Himmel 1 is a pretty somber scene. It's raining, the sky is dreary, and to top it off, it's a train stop. As if to signify that this is Himmel 1's last stop. Okay, I may be pushing a bit there, but let's talk about Himmel 1 for a sec. Mystical ancient powers, help us because the was has begun. To kill bugs! Yes, okay. For the first 2/3 of the game, Himmel 1 is off doing his own thing. You soon find out that something is wrong when the team loses contact with him. Later, one of your team finds a used syringe that had alien virus. And sure enough, a couple stages later, you find Himmel 1, and he's no longer the happy-go-lucky sentient plane that you saw earlier. He's been infected by the aliens, and can't stop himself from attacking you. And so, you do what any teammate, what any friend would do. You put him out of his misery. And it is a violent, bloody, and fiery death. I'll be damned if I didn't feel a slight pang of sadness when I saw this poor plane, whom I assume was Himmel's younger brother or something. He will pay for this, stupid bug! An incredible amount of work went into giving Kuyo Blaster the most character and personality that it could possibly have. But now let's actually talk about the gameplay and see how it stacks up. Well, for the most part, it's pretty good. You get your choice of a selectable power-up between stages, like increased bullet speed or an extra life, and there are weapon power-ups that behave like Metal Slug weapons with limited ammo. It's your fairly standard systems. However, there are some issues. Your screen-clearing bomb in this game is a pulse, and it transforms enemy bullets into the little gold pickups that increase your special meter. However, it doesn't prevent more bullets from appearing for a couple seconds, like such an attack would in other shmups. That's kind of irritating, and I've died many times because of it. A larger problem is that some of these boss fights have way too much health to burn through. If you go into these fights without either a stock of pulses so you can land a few special attacks, then these fights will be a drag, almost tedious. And the last boss? I don't want to spoil it here, but let me just say that my first experience fighting him was not pleasant. Other than that, the action is solid. though I personally think the style outweighs the substance in terms of quality. But hey, like I said, I still love playing this game. It's a joy to look at, and the music is excellent as well. I am absolutely gonna be buying the OST on Bandcamp. Update, I actually already did. Miguel Vasquez did an excellent job with this soundtrack. Whew, man. I wound up talking about Kuyo Blaster a lot more than I planned to. It's definitely the kind of material that I like to cover on this show. A true hidden gem on Steam that deserves to see some popularity. Nothing about this game was lazily developed. The amount of work put into Kuyo Blaster just screams passion project to me. And as it turns out, it was made in memory of Bebo, the noble guinea pig who inspired this game. See? Now you have to buy it. I give Kuyo Blaster a difficulty rating of... Please give this game a shot. There's a reason why I had this as my wallpaper for like a month.
Planes, bullets, and vodka.
Do you smell it? That smell. The kind of smelly smell. The smelly smell that smells smelly. Communism!
You get what you pay for with this one. Just a very basic, low-effort shmup with bog-standard power-ups and tunnel vision for some reason. And it commits a shmup sin, and that is never make the enemy bullets the same color as the players. Maybe I'd like it more if it had some better music. There we go. Not much else to say, really. Difficulty rating of...
Supercharged Robot VULKAISER.
Damn girl, wake up. We gotta save the world. Here's another sideways shmup with a lot of character and personality. Supercharged Robot VULKAISER was developed by Astroport, a Japanese indie team that makes some really solid mecha side-scrollers and shmups on Steam. I recommend Gigantic Army. It's a lot of fun. VULKAISER harkens back to the 70s era of giant robot anime. I like how this yellow text emulates the kind of subtitles that Americans might have seen on anime back in the day. And the music reflects that time period as well, with its delightful cheesiness. Gameplay here is immensely satisfying. As VULKAISER, you can combine with your teammate ships to give yourself different power boosts, like a widespread needle attack when combined with Kimiko's ship, or a giant drill with Suzuna's. If there's one thing I know about 70s anime giant robots, it's that you gotta have a drill. Each ship also has a charge attack that can be fired by releasing the shot button, and a devastating special attack that you only get one of each time you combine with a new ship. You can stick with the same ship combo for the whole game if you want, but you'll be giving up free attack charges if you do. I like how your hitbox only shows up when you get closer to enemy bullets. That's a nice touch. When you do take a hit, you and the ship combined with you take some damage. If your teammate's ship takes too much damage, you'll lose access to it for the rest of the game. Another good reason to switch up combos mid-stage, as ships gain some health back between stages. Very much like Star Fox. You really get the sensation of working with a team in this game. You even get different messages from your teammates between stages depending on what stage it was and who you finished the stage with. I really wish this game had voice acting in the vein of Earth Defense Force. I think that would suit VULKAISER nicely.
Let's give these Ravagers a welcome they'll never forget! Yeah!
It's not the most challenging shmup in my collection, but that's actually what I love about it. Supercharged Robot VULKAISER is just an enjoyable experience that's only really hard if you want it to be. One of these days I'm going to try to beat the hardest difficulty and see if it unlocks a true supercharged robot with all of your teammates combined at once. If that doesn't exist, then I'm going to be super disappointed. No pun intended. If you'd like to try before you buy, there's a demo available on Steam. I'll give this one a difficulty rating of...
Yo, Piggy, I'm going to you. Piggy, you are You are Piggy, you are
Danmaku Unlimited 2 and 3.
Let's get this out of the way. Only Danmaku Unlimited 2 and 3 are available on Steam. Where is the original game? A game in a genre that requires precise control, unobstructed view, and utmost concentration. It's on iOS. Why did Doragon Entertainment decide to put it on iOS only?
I don't know.
Anyway, Danmaku Unlimited 2 and 3 are hardcore bullet hell games, released on Steam in 2014 and 2017 respectively, by Doragon Entertainment, which, to my surprise, is not a Japanese company. Looks like it's actually a one-person team from Canada. Well, if these games really were developed by one person, then consider me thoroughly impressed. Danmaku Unlimited 2 does something I've never seen in a bullet hell game before. It gives you points earned from ranking up to spend on permanent upgrades, like more continues or increased attack power. But since ranking up takes a while, I think you'll find that your increased level of performance will be more attributed to you getting better at the game. The power-ups are just a nice reward to really cement that feeling of accomplishment. Gameplay is fairly standard. You've got your basic shots with a powerful laser that recharges over time. You've also got a trance mode that powers you up for a brief period. Consider it your oh shit button. There's also the RDS system, but from what I can tell, it only acts as a shield to protect you from one hit before dying, and recharges some after a boss fight. Not the most intricate systems, but in a game like this, the fun comes from reading the patterns in a barrage of bullets and dodging them accordingly. I think that's the difference between a shmup and a bullet hell. Playing a shmup is throwing the dodgeball, and a bullet hell is you dodging the balls. I love the visual design for this game. It's mostly lots of cool blues, purples, and greens, with the occasional red and yellow being thrown in. The developer had a very specific vision for the color scheme, and it's very appealing to look at, just as the music is very appealing to my ear holes. This is another OST that I gotta buy on Bandcamp sometime. I'll give Danmaku Unlimited 2 a difficulty rating of... As for Danmaku Unlimited 3, it removes the permanent power-up system from 2 and adds more customization for your attacks before starting a game, with more becoming unlocked as you reach milestones. 3 also changes the function of the laser from a recharging temporary attack to a standard focus attack that throttles your speed. Oh, and there are screen-clearing bombs now. I didn't realize how much I missed those until I had them back. A photo-sensitive option was added as well, which apparently is on by default. My first playthrough, I felt like I was playing Super Mario Sunshine with the sunglasses equipped. A nice option to add, but not one that I required. As far as changes go, that's about it. Though the trance mode was changed to activate automatically upon reaching full charge. A minor change, but one that mystifies me. There are plenty of buttons on a controller and even more on a keyboard. So why the option to activate it whenever I want was taken away, I'll never understand. The game still has a rockin' soundtrack and the same appealing graphics. I really like how the focus laser is such a dense and fluid looking attack. I feel like I'm firing liquid light whenever I use it. I can easily recommend both of these games to fans of the genre. They're both reasonably priced on Steam, so give them a try sometime. I give Danmaku Unlimited 3 a difficulty rating of...
Click! Rip it! Up to 200 scale miles per hour! Spooky, scary skeletons.
Deathsmiles.
Now here's a spooky Halloween shmup for all of my goth girl viewers out there. Deathsmiles, a gothy, girly adventure for the whole family that just doesn't understand you. I'm sorry, how old are these characters? This one's only 17? That's Japan for you. Deathsmiles was developed by Cave Interactive, a team that seems to exclusively make shmups, with titles like Mushi Hime-sama and Dodonpachi Resurrection released on Steam, both of which I plan to cover in the future. What sets this game apart from the other sideways shooters, aside from the positively bonkers enemy designs and gothic theme, is the familiar system. Every character has a familiar spirit that you can control the placement of, and they all have different methods of attack depending on whether you mash the fire button or hold it down. They also behave as a shield to block these cross-shaped bullets, which is an essential skill to learn. At first I thought this game was way too easy, but as I got into the later levels, the quarter-munching tendency from its arcade lineage started to rear its ugly head. Almost every enemy you destroy will start leaving behind these blockable bullets, and it becomes downright unmanageable in many situations. If I had the $10 that I spent on this game in quarters to try and beat it in an arcade, I'm not sure that would be enough. Would be best to just cut my losses and go play DDR or something. That's always been a problem I've had with direct arcade to home conversions. Most arcade games are designed to become way too hard to be enjoyable. And Deathsmiles is, borrowing a phrase from Super Bunny Hop here, a mean old bastard of a quarter muncher. It's why I appreciate when a shmup that's been ported from arcades has an alternate mode that's designed to be more manageable, like Novice mode in Crimzon Clover. Much like Kyo Blaster, the enemy designs and backgrounds in Deathsmiles are very fun to look at. Some of the boss designs are downright unsettling and really freak me out, like this giant face that's been strapped down with rope, or this giant cow. Shoot the cow! Do it now! I really love the theming of the levels. You can go from a fiery and intense volcano to a peaceful forest. Well, peaceful compared to the volcano anyway. There is a problem with some heavy slowdown when things start getting crazy, but I only experienced this in the normal version of the game. Deathsmiles packs in multiple versions to choose from. Slowdown was no longer an issue when I went with version 1.1, which also has a 5th playable character, so I'd say just stick with that one. Deathsmiles is a high quality shmup with a respectable amount of content for the price. I had hesitated for a while about purchasing it, and eventually came around last year. I don't regret it in the least. It gets a difficulty rating of
Mario Sunshine! What happened? Ah! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god, that was a lot of property damage just there.
QP Shooting Dangerous.
The plot of this game is that Pudding has disappeared, and nobody seems to remember it exists, except for the main character. So she calls upon the power of Danmaku and goes completely postal, destroying chickens, passenger-filled trains, trees, and her own classmates in a crazed, sugar-deprived massacre. Jesus, somebody get this girl a snack pack already. QP Shooting Dangerous is a decent enough shmup with lots of customization for attack options that can be unlocked. You can have 3 attack options equipped that can be cycled through as you please. Enemies can come from the bottom of the screen, so it's beneficial to have at least one backwards facing option. You also get a powered up mode that charges up over time. This game just makes me all kinds of smile, with its cute graphics and upbeat music. I had a big dumb grin on my face the first time I heard the Game Over theme. And wait just a minute here, the Stage Complete theme. Okay, any of you ever play Muse Dash? What's the story with that? I like the game, but it has a couple problems that irk me. First, it's missing a boss marker at the bottom of the screen. Shmups, specifically bullet hells, always have one of these. It makes it easier to track where the boss is so you can keep damaging it and dodge bullets at the same time. I also seem to be having some control issues. Like I said, I use a DualShock 4, and I'm not sure, but the movement feels a bit off. Like there's an issue with the dead zone being set too high or something. It could all be in my head, but there were times when I felt like the control was not sufficient enough to avoid a death. Please leave a comment if you happen to notice the same issue. QP Shooting Dangerous is a cute little game by developer Orange Juice that I would play more if it weren't for the control problems I'm having. I'll leave an annotation here if I find out what the problem was later. I give it a difficulty rating of
Jamestown.
If you like shmups, and you have friends that like them too, then buy Jamestown. Buy it today, because Jamestown is the finest multiplayer shmup I've ever played. As a matter of fact, it's finally getting an updated re-release after 8 years of being on Steam, called Jamestown Plus. A shame I couldn't have gotten my hands on the updated version for this video, as it hadn't yet been released at the time. But oh well. Consider this review a final farewell to the original version. Jamestown was developed by Final Form Games. Incidentally, the re-release is being published by Battery Staple. You may recognize them as the bomb-ass team behind 20XX, another game I've reviewed on this show. That's just awesome. I don't want to take up too much time talking about the plot, so I'll just describe it the same way I do whenever I recommend it to other people. It is colonial times with aliens and steampunk ships. And despite this absolutely absurd concept, Jamestown plays it 100% straight. I don't think there is a single moment in the story where it pokes fun at anything. And I kinda love that. You may have noticed right off the bat that the playfield is a bit wider here than in most other shmups. That's because Jamestown was designed to accommodate 4 players at once. The screen is so wide that it even scrolls a bit when you near the edge. This ensures that no matter the chaos on the screen, your party of friends will always have room to maneuver. Or you could be boring as shit and play Clue together or something. The main game has 4 ships to choose from, with 3 more if you buy the $3 DLC. The only pickups you'll come across in stages are gold nuts and gears that power up your Vaunt meter. Activating the Vaunt does a few things. First, it gives you a large barrier for a couple seconds that absorbs any bullets it touches and gives you points. Then it powers up your shots. You can keep the Vaunt state going by collecting more gold nuts, and the longer you keep it up, the better the score bonus you get when it ends. If you find yourself in a pickle, you can end the Vaunt prematurely to get a small, short-lived barrier. The only other pickups are these revive tokens that only appear in multiplayer. You only lose a credit in multiplayer if the whole team dies. If somebody dies, you can either wait for them to revive, indicated by a small timer, or you can grab one of the revive tokens. This is a game that doesn't focus on nut-busting difficulty as much as just being a damn fun game to play with your friends. I've specified a few times that Jamestown is best played with your friends. That does unfortunately mean that I find it not quite as fun when played solo, mainly because the massive play area is a lot to cover for just one person. I almost can't believe the amount of detail that went into these graphics. Pixel art is one of my favorite things, and it just makes this game an absolute joy to behold. It's the same reason I love Metal Slug so much. And the music? Oh god. Just listen to this. That seriously gives me goosebumps every time. I'm so grateful for Jamestown existing. It's the kind of game that I play and get sad that so many people are unaware of its existence. Well, that's why I'm here. I give my Platinum Femur of Utmost Perfection and Excellence Award to Final Form Games and their magnum opus, Jamestown. And I cannot wait to play the updated re-release. Difficulty rating of...
No what?
Jesus Christ, I'm really starting to run out of these ratings. Good thing we're almost done. Next game!
Bullet Heaven 2.
Don't let the graphics throw you off. Bullet Heaven 2 is a finely crafted shmup by Matt Roszak of Kupo Games, the developer behind the epic Battle Fantasy series. You might be familiar with them if you've spent any time on Congregate.com, which I did back when all I had was a crappy laptop. Bullet Heaven 2 has the most customization options I've seen in a shmup. 8 different characters with 4 different costumes that give different boosts and 3 sub-weapons for each. Naturally, you unlock more stuff by using money earned in-game. This game plays a little differently. You fight against waves of enemies instead of a steady stream. Complete a wave without taking a hit or using a bomb and you'll get a diamond. Get a 3-star ranking for the level and you can consider it completed. There's even bonus bosses as a reward for perfecting every level in a world. I like how this giant boss has a circle around it that says target. Good thing that's there, or else I'd think I was supposed to be fighting the trees. This is another shmup with a lot of personality. The dialogue between characters might not always be exactly funny, but I do find it very charming. I especially like No Legs the cat. 3 guesses why he's called that. And the music is also very good. What Bullet Heaven 2 lacks in looks, it makes up for with an impressive amount of content. It goes on sale for really cheap on Steam sometimes, so I can definitely recommend giving it a try sometime. Difficulty rating of
Graze Counter.
And finally, we come to the last shmup of the video. Let's end it with a bang with Graze Counter. Developed by Bikuri Software and released on Steam in 2017. Grazing, the act of narrowly avoiding an enemy attack, is the name of the game. Time for you to do your best cow impression, because if you play this game as safe as possible, staying away from bullets and danger, then you're robbing yourself of a point multiplier and the titular Graze Counter meter. When this meter fills up, you can unleash, you guessed it, another laser attack. Collect enough stars that appear during said laser attack, and you can fire a super attack. Fairly standard stuff, with the exception of it all being based on grazing. 420 blaze it? More like 420 graze it, am I right, guys? This is another shmup where the translation work is let's say, of subpar quality? With such stirring lines as, "So just tell me, for what you fight?" And, "How will you act then? Come on, show me your justice." Well, I gotta admit that line is actually pretty awesome. I really like how the first new ship that you unlock has a very weak primary attack, but makes up for it by having 2 nodes that fire back at enemies while grazing. Now that's taking advantage of your game's mechanics. I'm really hoping that one of the other 5 ships I unlock doesn't have a primary attack at all, and just focuses entirely on grazing for offense. I don't have much to say about the graphics. I think it's decent looking, if maybe a bit chunky, and I think the music is pretty good, but that's only when I can hear it over the blaring sound effects, and I don't think they're very good sound effects. Just listen to this. I had a headache when I was trying out the mission mode, and every one of those tones was like a nail being hammered into my skull. Playing Graze Counter is just a hellish symphony of bleeps and whooshes and dings that are way too loud and obnoxious. I think the sound design could use some work. My final thoughts, I think Graze Counter is a decently well-designed shmup, the sound effects notwithstanding, and it makes good use of its mechanic. I give it a difficulty rating of, let's fight for liberty!
Oh, feel good! Unleash my power! America!
Huh, well would you look at that. Shmups never die. Graze Counter, I do believe that is the smartest thing you've said. And what an excellent note to end this video on. Shmups are great. They're one of my favorite video game genres. So much so that the 21 games I just covered aren't even all the shmups I own on Steam. And it's not like I own them all either, so you can bet I'll be covering games like Zero Ranger and R-Type Dimensions EX next time I do this. Now you may be wondering, isn't there a wildly popular series created by a Japanese flat cap wearing alcoholic that I've failed to mention here? Well, to those of you wise to what I'm talking about, rest assured, those games will have their day. It's just not something that I feel prepared to discuss at this time. I'd like more time to get used to this YouTube thing before taking on a subject that I care that much about. So please be patient with me. The day will come. For now, thank you very much for joining me on this hour-long shoot-'em-up adventure, and I wish you a very happy Halloween. This is A Skeleton, signing out.